Hey, Moose Country, welcome to another episode of Let Us Be Heard.
What's up, everybody? Calling back here for another episode of Let Us Be Heard. Joined again today by my friend and co-host, Dylan Gorman. Dylan, how you doing, bud?
Not too bad, man. What's going on?
Ooh, I'm super excited for this one.
This is probably had some good names in the past. You've had some good names in the past while I had to step away and take care of things. And this is by far, in my opinion, hands down, no disrespect to anybody else, this is the biggest name that we've had when it comes to Moose history. This person's name is synonymous with Moose history.
Agreed 100%.
Right.
We reached out to this gentleman, and he didn't hesitate to say he'd love to address the Moose Maniacs once again, and I couldn't be happier to have him on the show. He's a favorite of yours, isn't he?
Oh, he's my all-time favorite.
Yeah.
And I know it's not just me, there's many. And if people haven't clued in yet, maybe if they take a look behind me, I might have changed a few things. Maybe he has something to do with them.
That's right. He is the man that led us to not only the President's Cup, but the Memorial Cup. Before moving on to
the NHL, where he was a head coach in Montreal, and he is currently the assistant coach of the Las Vegas Golden Knights. That's right. He agreed to come on with us for some reason. It is none other than Dom Ducharme.
Dominique Ducharme, the man, the myth, the legend, the man that led our team to glory. How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing great. Yourself?
Not too bad. How's Vegas treating you?
Vegas is nice. It's the first time for me really working out west, and it's a different hockey culture, but great fan base. Really grew with the team, and different lifestyle. It's different temperature too. So it's pretty nice. Really enjoyed our time so far here. Great people, great organization, and it's a lot of fun.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's going to be a little bit different going from an arena to walking outside and having it being so warm, probably.
Yeah, it's no shoveling, and coming back from a trip, you get off the plane. There's no snow and everything. It's pretty nice just to have your suit jacket on and get into your car and go.
Well, we just got hit with a big snowstorm a couple of days ago, and the Mooseheads just came back from a Quebec road trip. And Colin and a few of the other fans actually went to their new practice arena and shoveled out their vehicles for them to help them out. Said they didn't have to do it after the long road trip.
Well, that shows how Halifax fans are, and it's. I know the snowstorms there. I mean, we had a few big ones in my 5 years, but I can recognize the way the people in Halifax treats the players and the staff. So I'm not surprised about it.
So speaking of your 5 years, how did you get into coaching?
Well, I think it was probably in the back of my mind all the way through my playing. I think I knew that when I was done playing, I wanted to stay in hockey, but in what role was maybe something that I didn't know. But the more I got toward the end, I knew I wanted to do this, and I was playing in Europe. And last year I played. Our coach got really sick, couldn't come to the rink, and at that time, the assistant coach was more like a minor hockey coach. So basically, me and a teammate, our captain, took over the team while he was gone. He was gone for a month and a half. So we would watch video and prepare practices, and acting like player coaches. And when he came back, I knew what I wanted to do after, and I stopped playing that year, and right away I started coaching and really enjoyed that. It's the closest you can get from playing, the adrenaline and being in the game. And I really like working with the team and just helping younger players getting better and older players just to, stay on top.
Yeah. So your history with the Q, you were a coach with the Montreal Juniors, and then how did you end up switching to the Mooseheads? How did that all come about?
Well, that year we played the Mooseheads in the playoff in the first round, and Bobby was coaching. And after the playoff round, I think he announced that he was not coming back as a coach, so that they were looking for a coach. And I think we lost in the second round to Lewiston. And shortly after, I got a call from three teams: Rimouski, Halifax, Bobby and Cam called me, and Cape Breton. So I interviewed within 24 hours with those three teams. The first one was the Mooseheads. Drove up to Ottawa, met with them, with Bobby and Cam, for like 4 or 5 hours. Then I met with the Eagles in Montreal, driving back. And the next morning I was in Quebec City with Rimouski. And then I think it was that was Friday and Saturday. I think on the Monday, Bobby called me and offered me to come and coach at Mooseheads, and it was my number one pick. If I could pick between all three, I always enjoyed my time going and playing against the Mooseheads. I like the city, I like the arena, the fans, and everything. So, and I knew they were, building a good team. So it was a perfect fit for me.
That's awesome.
So it's wicked that, and kind of funny that you chatted with Rimouski, because actually in your first season with the Moose, you unfortunately lost to them in the semifinals. After that, because it was such a good run for the team, but after such a heartbreaking situation in our own building with the captain's jersey hanging from the rafters, what do you say to the team after that to prepare them for the next season?
Well, that's all we've done that year. I mean, we had a young group still, right? Cal being 16, Dual 16, McKinnon, Falkenham. We were a young group still. We were a good young group, and we've been through a lot through those playoffs. And that year and that experience, that we wanted to keep building on that when we come back in August that year, the following year. That I was proud of them, the way that we handled adversity through those playoffs and the way we grew as a team. And I think our young players and our group really learned a lot through that playoff, those 3 rounds of playoffs. And I think it really set the tone for the next season, giving them a taste too of success and seeing what it takes. And really from there we went on and built on that and started right away in August. And I think the guys did a great job and just kept growing together as a team.
Yeah, you had the privilege to coach many great players on the Moose. I've spoken with Ryan Falkenham personally, and I've had him on the show, and he absolutely adored you as a coach. Can you talk a little bit about the reverse sweep against Quebec?
Yeah, that was when we talk about adversity, that was a situation where maybe the setup or the foundation of our next season really got molded there, because playing in the Colisée in front of 13,000 people, losing the first 2 games, really close games, The second game, we were leading by a goal. We threw a puck in the stands. I think Nathan threw a puck in the stand. We ended up on PK. They scored. They won in overtime. So I really believe that those two games, we were in a good situation, good position to maybe win at least one, maybe two games. Came back home. It was a little bit of the same situation where we had the lead. They came back, another close call, and we were down now 0-3, and really got the group back together, and just focusing on being good one day at a time, and just controlling what we can control. And then we started winning one, and then once we won that first one, I think you could feel the confidence in the group and the energy in the crowd. So we played two more in Halifax and won those, two next game. And now, we were trailing 3-2 going into Quebec. We need to win 6 and 7 in Quebec. And game 6, we solid win. I think it's a 5-1 win. Really, we dominated the game. But then we needed to close it out on game 7, and I think it was kind of an historic one, with Critchlow scoring 4 goals and coming back. We were the one coming back into the game, that game, showing a lot of, being resilient and, trailing by 2 goals twice and tying the game in the third, going into overtime, and Drouin finishing it off in overtime. I think for our group to be able to get together, to really understand how much little details can make a difference. I think, again, that grew out, like that grew into our group within that playoff round. But again, I think it set up a lot of the success that we had the next season.
Yeah. So the next season, just your second year, you were the first, and not just first, but still currently the only coach to bring the team all the way, winning not only the President's Cup at the time, but also the Memorial Cup. At the start of the season, did you guys feel that you had the team to not just win the Q, but to win the entire Memorial Cup?
Yeah, we didn't go in the media talking about it, and there was a lot of traps that we didn't want to fall in, right?
Yeah.
First, we didn't want to talk about it. Our way of thinking, and when you walked into the locker room, was to win the day. So we wanted to just come in and make sure that once we were leaving the rink, that we were better than when we walked in. The other thing too is that we had 3 players that were eligible for the NHL draft, and sometimes, it's a challenge for them to be composing with pressure and rankings and things like that. And so individually, those guys did a great job focusing just on getting better and just making sure that every day that we're focusing on their work, not on what people were saying around, but just focusing on their work. And as a team, we handled it the same way. We were not going to win the President's Cup or the Memorial Cup in September or October, but we were building every day toward that goal. And that's the way and the mentality which we work with. And the guys, to their credit, they really stayed focused on that, and really just were paying attention to those little things every day to make sure that we were getting better every day. So I thought that once we reached the playoff and once we reached the Memorial Cup, I think we could have faced anything, any type of game, any kind of situations, being up or down. We learned as a team how to manage a lead and how to also, come back into a game or a series and things like that, and composing with pressure, because we were, a lot of people were talking about us. So we were just ready at the right time at the end of the year to achieve those goals, and that's something that we wanted to do right from the start.
It's funny. I spoke with Brian Lovell. He was on the show, and we asked a similar question. And he said that he knew from the beginning of the year that you guys were going all the way. Like there was no doubt in his mind that you guys were winning it.
Well, Brian is pretty good. I mean, as a coach, though, you can never take anything for granted. And I always talk to the guys about controlling what we can control.
Yep.
And the way we showed up every day at the rink is something we control. Like sometimes we don't control the ref, we don't control the bounces, you don't control many things, but we control the way we work every day, the way we work on details, and those things that we can control within the game, we worked on it every day. And I think, like I said, toward the end, we were just so geared up. We were so a well-oiled machine that we could have faced anything.
And you had a spectacular team your first 3 years, really. That being said, with all the stars you had, McKinnon, Drouin, Ferk, Fakali, was there anybody on like the lower lines, fourth lines, third lines that was maybe overshadowed by these big, boisterous stars?
Yeah, for sure. But at the same time, those guys were really important to us, right? And a good way to picture it is just going back to Christmas time when the guys went to the World Juniors. McKinnon, Drouin, Marty going with the Czech team. I think our team went 8-2 in 10 games that they were gone. So it showed the depth of our team, and the players like Brett Andrews and Darcy Ashley, McCauley, Fournier, all those guys, Boudreau and Champini, those guys, but also our defense. Our defense got overlooked a lot. We had beside Abel Schalzer, we only had one guy at the time that was drafted. That he was the only one. And when we showed up to the Memorial Cup, and even our defensemen were joking about it, looking at Portland's lineup, they were all 6 guys or 5 guys drafted, and the other one was Seth Jones that was in the same draft than Nathan and Joe. So for them, it was a challenge to show, hey, maybe we're not look like stars, like people don't see us being that important. We'll show that we're important on the team, and they did a great job all year. And in the important moments like the playoff and the Memorial Cup.
So I know one of my favorite moments was, and it really shows like the camaraderie in the dressing room, was on the home ice when McKinnon took a bad hit in the playoffs and Fournier stepped up and just absolutely went to town on the guy, and the crowd was going nuts. And then they hugged at the center ice as he was being escorted off. That just showed like everybody on that team was all in and going for it all.
Yeah, and I think when you have a team that if you want to have success, you need guys to have roles, right? And I think Fournier understood that he needed to be a little bit of a protector for those guys, like at the same time a guy like Trey Lewis was doing. And I'm sure if Trey would have been the closest one, and you would have been in.
Well, he's taking on 2 guys at once for running for Cali.
That's in game 4, I think. On McKinnon, I think it was in game 1 or at the end of game 2. So and guys really bought in, and they understood their role and really cherished that, and that's why we had success, because there's nobody that can win it by himself. You need 20 guys that will be going, and you always hit adversity through a season. And I felt at times, everyone had a big word on our success.
Yeah, besides the obvious victories in 2013, are there any other memorable moments from that year that you can recall that just stand out when you think of it?
But for me as a coach, it's not only one moment. Obviously, you talked about the obvious one, winning the cup at home and seeing the energy in the rink and everything else, and the
Fans getting
Memorial
on the
Cup.
ice and everything.
Yeah, yeah. But for me as a coach, it's just looking back at the process and to see, where we started. I see it as a win that started, 2 years ago. It was 2 years back that we worked on that and built that. And for me to see the way the team grew together, and the way our game grew and got better and better, and just like I said, as a coach, that's the most satisfying thing to be able to look at it and see where you're at the end. And you only need to tune up little things and a little adjustment depending on teams you play. But the core of our game was so strong that the way we build it, and for me as a coach, that's the most memorable thing, and satisfying at the same time because of all the work done behind, not only by the coaching staff, not by the players and the way they bought into it.
Yeah, being a coach can be a thankless job because you don't see the work on the ice unless you really know what to look for. Now, you yourself, you were a people's coach. You've gone down in history kind of as one of the fans' favorite coaches to ever coach for the Moose. And I think it's in part to the fact that you took part in fan interactions. You would go and talk to the fans after the games when most coaches won't give fans time of the day. Is this something that you still do? And why is it that you felt it necessary to interact with the fans?
No, but I really enjoyed the people in Halifax and their passion for the team. And is it easier to do in Halifax than it is in Montreal? Yeah, for sure, because it's easier to be in contact with the fans in Halifax. But I always enjoy talking hockey, right, and talking about our team. And obviously, there are things that you cannot talk about or say, but there's always a reason why we do something, whether it's a line combination, whether it's the way you forecheck or the way you play defense, or just about coaching and hockey. I like to talk about it. So, obviously, I'm not there to argue about who should be on the ice, but talking generally about the team and the hockey, I like it. So, and I like to do it with fans. And fans have always been respectful to me, and I had good conversation. And even my time in Montreal, a lot of them come, and sometimes they talk to me about our run in the Stanley Cup final and things like that. So it's always nice to see that how people are passionate about the game and the impact of a team on a city and the people vibrating to a team success.
Awesome.
No, it is very important because we say it all the time on this show. The boys and a lot of the players and staff might not know how much the Mooseheads or hockey in general does for people. Like, it allows people to have an escape and stuff. So getting the chance to talk. And I was one of the ones that got the opportunity to chat with you every once in a while. I was down there with Hockey Mom. And it means the world that like you're giving us the time of day and stuff. So just so much respect for that.
No, it's always a pleasure. And if I would go down to Halifax and watch a game and walk by the locker room, I'd probably see a few faces that I know, and I would certainly stop back and and talk about almost the same thing that we were talking 10
Very
years ago.
much so. Very much. So after your time with the Mooseheads, you ended up moving on to Drummondville, where you also ended up working with one of your former players in Ryan Falkingham. So how did that come about with making the switch to Drummondville and then working with somebody that you used to coach, who's still involved with coaching hockey to this day? Like a big part of it is because of you.
Yep.
Well, my decision to leave Halifax and go to Drummondville was solely about family, right? I had my two kids in my hometown in Joliet, and my dad passed away during the World Juniors just in my last year in Halifax, and he was an important part of my kids' life because he was taking my spot traveling for them for sports and things like that. So I wanted to get closer to them, and I had an opportunity to be a GM and coach in Drummondville, and that was a different challenge for me. And on the family side, it was important to get closer. And after my first year, one of our assistants left to go at the University of Trois-Rivières, and I was looking for, we had a lot of guys from the Maritimes, guys from Ontario, younger guys, and I wanted to have a guy that was closer to their age, that has a good view of the game. And I always thought that Falkenham Ryan was a smart hockey guy, the way he played. He got injured and, couldn't play at an early age, too young. So, I wanted him to be involved. And he did a great job with our guys on the hockey side, but also on just life, being away from home for the first time for some of the guys, school. Ryan was a good student and things like that. So I thought he had a good, even though he was young, he's a smart guy, and he could relate to what the guys were living and help me and Steve a lot working together.
So after you went to Drummondville, what was it like entering the Scotiabank Center on the opposite bench?
It's weird. Obviously, you want to win, right? And you want to win, but I always see it as a little bit of home for me. So, I didn't leave because, I was not in good term with Bobby or Cam or things like that. So it was nice to be back, but it's weird at the same time to be on the other bench. So, but always nice to see the people there, and it's a fun ring to play in, and enjoyed that, but not as much as being on the other bench.
Yeah. Falkenham was always saying that when those games came up in Halifax on your guys' calendar, it was like a big circle. Like, this is an important game to you guys on the bench, just because of the connection.
Yeah, for sure. And because, like I said, we had so much great memories, and just in town too. Like, we had our spots that we wanted to go eat, and we want to have a drink there. And after the game, post game, we know what we wanted to order for the bus. The bus right after, because we were craving some of the places that we were going usually. So it's always it was fun to go back, but it's always a different feeling when you're on the other side.
Yeah. So as a coach, like we hear from players, we've had players answer this, but as a coach, what kind of words of advice would you have for upcoming players that are just jumping into the queue, or that are currently affiliate players trying to make full-time roster spots?
Well, I think it's a good one, but the way we approach the season that we talked about was just making sure that you're getting better every day, and a guy can do that in the gym. He can do that in the video room. He can do that just by the way he eats and the way he sleeps and takes care of himself. The other thing too is working on details of the game. And sometimes when we talk about details of the game, is the higher level we go, we think it's more and more complicated. It's really being good doing the basic things, not just good, excellent on the things that we control, like we talked about, whether it's the way you use your stick, the way you use your body to protect the puck, to separate guys from the puck. Those kind of things can help you a lot adapt to another level. And you as a player, you always mature physically and mentally. You always, by getting physically stronger, get faster, and so on. That's something that you control off the ice with your training. That's something that you control by the way you work on the ice. But those details, it's not because you go at a higher level that everyone controls that. And sometimes that's something that players think, that being an NHL player or a good Q player is you got to be having crazy skills and scoring highlight goals. But you got to be good doing the basic things and being efficient. That gets you efficient in every situation. And I think it's easy to forget and to pass on and to think that, well, that's something for the younger players. Even today with guys that are 30, we still work on those things, make sure that we're efficient in all part of the game.
So I have every now and again on the channel when we have a high profile guest, we ask a fan to ask a question, and I do have a fan question here that wasn't in your list, but it's nothing too scandalous. Do you remember a little girl by the name of Emily Alford? She was only a little girl when she went to the games when you were there. She went with her mother and her father, Krista and John. They've been season ticket holders since day one. She was always a little girl hanging out with the players. But she wanted me to ask you, she's now 19, how does coaching in the Q compare to coaching in the NHL?
I mean, everything around the NHL is bigger, right? Media, rinks, the way you travel, things like that. Once you get into the locker room, obviously the guys in the NHL they're older, they have more experience, but it's not that different in the sense that we talk about the same things, sometimes in different ways, different language, different approach, but you still talk about the same thing. So the core remains the same. It's everything else around that is different, and your way to communicate is adapted to more experienced older players and so on.
Right on. I think we only have one more question. Do you want to field it there, Dylan?
Yeah. So the way that we end it with everybody is an open forum for you. Is there anything you would like to address to the city, to the players, to your former coworkers regarding, like, to the fans regarding your time with the Moose? Anything you want to say at all?
Well, I think I mentioned it, but it had a big impact on my life, not only as a coach, but in my life. I really enjoyed the place, and I wish the Mooseheads good luck, for sure, to the players, to the staff, to this year's team. And I want to say hello to all the fans in Halifax, because every time, like, even coming back sometimes, people recognize me and always treat me really well, and I appreciate that a lot. And it will always stay in my mind. It's a special place for me, and it will stay that way, even though the NHL or something else, Halifax for me is a special place
So
in my heart.
So your favorite ring is still the Memorial Cup ring, right?
For sure. I got a World Junior ring, but the Memorial Cup ring is special because all the work behind. It's a special to win the World Juniors, but it's a shorter time. It's a different challenge. It's a fun one too. But growing and going 2 years working with those guys and then finally getting there is something special. So now, obviously, I want a bigger one. Winning the Stanley Cup, that's the goal.
We want you to get a bigger one.
Hell yeah.
But there's something else. I just want to speak this into existence. This year, we just retired Nathan McKinnon's number. A lot of teams retire numbers for players, but we're seeing more and more teams honor coaches by putting their names up in the rafters. If anybody from the Mooseheads happened to see this, I know 100% that every single Moosehead fan would absolutely love to see your name up in the rafters and be able to honor you for a night for being the first coach to help bring us to the championship, for just being the type of person that you are and just everything that you have done for hockey in Halifax, because there's kids that are playing today because of that team, because of the players that you coached. And it's still going on with guys like Falkenham, who's still involved. Champini's still involved in hockey. So you had a big impact. So I personally, I know I can speak for Colin and I can speak for many, many others. We would absolutely love if the team was to honor you at some point.
Well,
and thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. That's really appreciate that. And like I said, it wouldn't change anything in my mind the way I see Halifax. It's like I said, it's a special place for me. And thank you for the kind words.
Listen, Dom, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule. I hope you absolutely tear it up in Vegas this year. That was Dominique Ducharme, everybody. Hope you're all healthy, safe, and happy out there. And as always, go Moose, go.